Yo, what's going on, guys? I'm the Anime Top Scholar, and today we're back with more retro recommendations. Today we're diving back into the 80s, and the theme this time is movies. Okay, that was not actually my intention, but all the recommendations I have here are movies, so we're rolling with it. I have picked out 3 of the finest 80s anime movies that I can think of, and I hope you guys will enjoy. As always, you can find a playlist to this series in the top right hand corner of the video if you want to get more retro recommendations. So now that that's out of the way, let's get to these recommendations. Up first, we got the most popular pick of the bunch, and that's the 1988 Studio Ghibli movie called Tonari no Totoro, or My Neighbor Totoro in English. This movie was directed by the infamous director Hayao Miyazaki, and clocks in at an hour and 26 minutes in length. The synopsis goes something like this. Set in 1950s Japan, Tatsuo Kusakabe relocates himself with his 2 daughters, Satsuki and Mei, to the countryside to be closer to their mother, who was hospitalized due to long-term illness. As the girls grow acquainted with rural life, Mei encounters a small, bunny-like creature in the yard one day. Chasing it into the forest, she finds Totoro, a giant mystical forest spirit, whom she befriends. Before long, Satsuki too meets Totoro, and the 2 girls suddenly find their lives filled with magical adventures in nature and fantastical creatures of the woods. Now, I'm normally not the biggest fan of Ghibli movies, but My Neighbor Totoro is one that I really like a lot. It's a simple and charming story with nice light comedy and a sense of wonder and discovery. The sort you can only really get through following 2 children moving to and exploring their new rural home. It also helps that Totoro is just cute as hell. This is definitely a family-friendly movie that anyone can enjoy. And even though I'm not exactly a kid anymore, just a grown man-child, the charm of this movie still managed to grab me. So if you are like me and not really into Ghibli movies, then give this one a shot if you haven't already. I can't promise that you're gonna love it, but what I can promise is that Totoro will make you smile at least once during this movie. Mark my words. Up next, we have the less popular anime on this list, and that is the Studio Dean OVA from 1985 called Tenshi no Tamago, or Angel's Egg in English. This anime clocks in at around 1 hour and 11 minutes, and was directed by Mamoru Oshii, who would later go on to direct anime such as Ghost in the Shell and Patlabor. The synopsis goes something like this. In a desolate and dark world full of shadows, lives one little girl who seems to do nothing but collect water in jars and protect a large egg she carries everywhere. A mysterious man enters her life, and they discuss the world around them. There's a fine line between artistry and pretentiousness, and this avant-garde style movie is definitely one that threads quite close to this line. You see, this movie is expressed almost entirely through the visuals, as there's almost no spoken lines in it. That might turn some people away, as it can make it seem a bit hard to understand exactly what the movie is going for, but if you appreciate the art of visual storytelling, then you owe it to yourself to give this movie a go. The neo-gothic cityscapes, coupled with religious depictions and plenty of undertones, makes it such an interesting watch. I can easily say that you won't really find many other anime quite like Angel's Egg, and that alone should warrant at least some interest in it. Or maybe that's just something that piques my interest. Last but most certainly not least, we have the more obscure pick of the bunch, and that is the movie Hadashi no Gen, or Barefoot Again in English. This movie from 1983 was produced by Studio Madhouse and directed by Mori Masaka. The movie clocks in at around 1 hour and 23 minutes in length. There's also a sequel to Barefoot Again that came out in 1986, and it was directed by Toshio Hirata. The synopsis goes something like this. It's the summer of 1945. 3 years have elapsed since the war between Japan and the USA began. Gen is a young boy living a struggling yet satisfying life in the city of Hiroshima that has been strangely spared by the bombing taken in almost every other Japanese city. Food is scarce, and Gen's family is suffering from severe malnutrition, which endangers his pregnant mother. There isn't much time to spare, as Gen and his little brother Shinji help their father and mother at work while they try to make sure their family survives the tough times. Little do they know what the Americans have in store for the city of Hiroshima, and as of the 6th of August 1945, their lives are about to change dramatically.
Roger, release the bomb.
Releasing bomb.
Before I say any more, let me offer you a warning. This movie is uncomfortable to watch. It depicts some horrible events that transpired during World War II. You see, Barefoot Again is based on a manga of the same name, and is what we would refer to as A-bomb literature. What that means is literature based on the atomic bomb that hit Hiroshima and Nagasaki during World War II. You see, the author of Barefoot Again, Kenji Nakasawa, was a child living in Hiroshima during the war, and was a surviving witness to the horrors of the atomic bombing. These horrors are on full display in the first movie, even though it does take a while before it gets there. In the first half of the movie, we spend a lot of time with Gen and his family, and we get a lot of the typical wartime setting of people getting food with coupons handed out by the government, and the occasional flight alarm scare. But that all changes when Gen's world is flipped upside down. The rest of the movie is spent trying to recover from the bombing, and the sequel movie continues into after wartime. This makes for some very sudden tonal shifts in the movie, but it also makes sense as it wants to show how this tragedy caught everyone off guard. Once again, this movie is not for everyone. If you're squeamish and can't stomach the graphic imagery that is on display in these movies, then I would suggest that you avoid it. However, if you're interested in this autobiographical take on Japan during the war and the bombing, then I can't really think of a better movie than Barefoot Again. It's raw, it's heavy, but it's still interesting. So those were all the recommendations I have for you for this time. Hopefully between My Neighbor Totoro, Angel's Egg, and Barefoot Again, you found something that interests you. And if you want more retro recommendations from me, you can find the playlist to this series in the top right hand corner of the video. There you'll find recommendations on shows from the early 2000s all the way back to the 70s. Anyways, I hope you've enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more anime related content from the Anime Top Scholar himself. Peace!